بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال الله تبارك وتعالى: ولما دخلوا على يوسف آوى إليه أخاه قال إني أنا أخوك فلا تبتئس بما كانوا يعملون. فلما جهزهم بجهازهم جعل السقاية في رحل أخيه ثم أذن مؤذن أيتها العير إنكم لسارقون. صدق الله العظيم. اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد كلما ذكره الذاكرون، وصل على سيدنا مولانا محمد كلما غافل عن ذكره الغافلون. اللهم صل وسلم على عبدك ورسولك. اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد أفضل صلواتك. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. We're continuing the story of Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, the great prophet of Allah, the son of Yaqub, the grandson of Ishaq, and the great grandson of Khalilullah, Ibrahim alayhi salam. So, the second time, brothers of Yusuf made their way back to Egypt. This was their second trip. And their entire objective, their purpose of going to Egypt was to gain grain, acquire food. Egypt was the only place that had surplus grain. No other country in the world had even enough to provide for themselves, to sustain themselves. But Egypt was the only country in the world at that time during severe famine that had surplus grain. And it was allowing the sale of surplus grain to foreigners. And that was all made possible due to the wisdom and the strategy of Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam. So when these brothers returned to Egypt, and now all of them, all 11 of them returned. In the first journey, they did not bring Binyamin, who was a full brother of Yusuf alayhi salam, because Yaqub alayhi salam would not let go of Binyamin out of his sight. He would always keep him in his sight. That happened after his separation from his most beloved son, Yusuf alayhi salam. So now on the second journey, they were able to convince their father Yaqub alayhi salam to let Binyamin go with them. And finally, after taking oath and promise from his children, Yaqub alayhi salam let him go. So now Allah describes that return or their arrival before Yusuf alayhi salam in this verse. وَلَمَّا دَخَلُوا عَلَى يُوسُف. So when the brothers entered in Yusuf's presence, when they entered into the palace of Yusuf alayhi salam, they were welcomed like last time. They were honored. They were given very warm treatment, very special treatment. And this time too, they were already treated as special or royal guests of Yusuf alayhi salam. So when all brothers entered the palace of Yusuf alayhi salam, Yusuf alayhi salam singled out his full brother Binyamin, and he called him to sit next to him. Awa ilayhi akhahu. He called his brother Binyamin aside, and then when he sat next to him, qala inni ana akhuk. Then he whispered into perhaps in his ear, or told him quietly that I am your brother. Inni ana akhuk. I am your brother. And of course, others were also brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam, but Binyamin and Yusuf were the only two full brothers. They were from the same mother. All other brothers were from a different mother. The father was the same father, but the mothers were different. So Yusuf alayhi salam told his brother Binyamin, I am your brother, the one who was abandoned and who was lost long time ago. قال إني أنا أخوك فلا تبتئس بما كانوا يعملون. So do not feel distressed about what they have been doing. Subhanallah. Brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam, after they got rid of Yusuf alayhi salam, now Yusuf's brother Binyamin became the favorite of his father. So now they started mistreating Binyamin. So Binyamin was left by himself, and there was no one from the brothers who would defend him. There was no one from the brothers who would be on his side, who would take his side. So Binyamin was always facing the wrath of his brothers. And Yusuf a.s. had a very good idea what his little brother perhaps had been going through for a long time. So he comforted him. He said, لا تبتئس بما كانوا يعملون. Do not grieve, do not feel distressed for what they have been doing to you. I know very well what they have done to me, and I know very well what they are doing to you as well. So it's all over. Be in peace and do not grieve about it. So now Binyamin became very happy when he realized that this is my brother that I've been missing for a long time. This is my brother that has been missing from our family for a very long time. First of all, he was happy to know that his brother is alive. Then he was happy to know that his brother is not only a special person, but his brother literally is running the country, and not any country, the most powerful country, the most advanced country in the world at that time. And then he was happy to know that his brother was missing him too. Of course, from all the brothers, Yusuf alayhi salam was missing his brother Binyamin the most. So as soon as Binyamin came, Yusuf alayhi salam, he called him to sit next to him, and he told him in his ear that I am your brother. فَلَمَّا جَهَّزَهُمْ لِجَهَازِهِمْ جَعَلَ السِّقَايَةَ فِي رَحْلِ أَخِيهِ. So then, Yusuf alayhi salam asked Binyamin, according to some narrations, Yusuf alayhi salam was the one who expressed to Binyamin that, why don't you stay here? Tell your brothers that you don't want to leave Egypt anymore, you want to stay in Egypt, and they can go back home. And you and I can live together here. This will be our new home. But Binyamin refused. He said, my father will die out of pain because he's already missing you, and you've been missing for a long time, and he loves me so much. If I don't go back, it's going to be very painful for our father, so I must go back. And according to another narration, it was Binyamin, after he found out who Yusuf was and he reunited with his brother, he was the one who asked Yusuf alayhi salam, can you just keep me here? Don't let me go with my brothers. I don't want to go. So Yusuf alayhi salam, of course, was already trying to find a way to keep Binyamin with him. But there was no way for Binyamin to be left consensually by his brothers. His brothers refused. So he asked his brothers, Yusuf asked his brothers, why don't you leave him here and I will take good care of him. And he yet did not reveal his identity to his brothers. And they have no idea that this is Yusuf, our own brother. He said, why don't you leave Binyamin here with me? And you can go when you run out of food, you come back again and I'll give you more. They said, no, we cannot leave Binyamin here. We gave promises to our father that we will bring him back. We're sorry. It's a high profile request, but we cannot honor it because we have commitment to our father that we will bring him back. So then, Yusuf alayhi salam decided to make this planning to keep his brother behind. And what is that planning? That's what Allah speaks of here. فَلَمَّا جَهَّزَهُمْ بِجَهَازِهِمْ جَعَلَ السِّقَايَةَ فِي رَحْلِ أَخِيهِ. So when Yusuf had provided them with supplies, he slipped the royal cup into his brother's bag. So everyone got a camel load of grains, and when their supplies, their grain was loaded onto each person's camel individually, and it was marked that this belongs to this one, this belongs to this one, this belongs to this one. There was one camel that belonged to Binyamin. So Binyamin also received his share of grains. But in the luggage of Binyamin, Yusuf alayhi salam had his employees or his servants place a royal cup, a royal bowl that was very special, that was exclusive for the king. So that bowl was placed secretly into the luggage or into the supplies of Binyamin without anyone noticing. ثم أذن مؤذن أيتها العيد إنكم لسارقون. Then an announcer shouted out, O people of the caravan, you are thieves. So when they were leaving, or maybe they already left the palace, all of a sudden someone shouts from behind and he says, O people of this caravan, you guys are thieves. إنكم لسارقون. You guys are thieves. قالوا وأقبلوا عليهم ماذا تفعلون. So these people, they turned towards the announcer and they said, what are you guys missing? We're accusing us of stealing. We didn't steal anything, but really, what are you missing that you are accusing of stealing? قالوا نفقد صواع الملك. They said, we are missing the measuring bowl of the king. Some narrators said, some scholars said that this bowl was a bowl of measurement. It was a special bowl that was used by the king, by Yusuf alayhi salam, to do the measurements of how much grain is being given. There are places where you wait, and there are places where you just have a certain bowl or certain pot which has the predetermined measurement. So whatever amount or whatever quantity or whatever weight of commodity comes into it, that's considered one item or one unit. So according to some narrations and some scholars, this was a bowl of measurement. That's why it's called suwa'. And according to some, it was a bowl that was used to provide, to offer drink to the king. And it was a very special and very expensive bowl. It was not an ordinary bowl. That's why it was called the bowl of the king. قَالُوا نَفْقِدُ صُوَاعِ الْمَلِكِ. They said, we are missing the bowl of the king. وَلِمَنْ جَاءَ بِهِ حِمْلُ بَعِيرٍ. And whoever brings it will be awarded a camel load of grain. وَأَنَا بِهِ زَعِيمٌ. And I will guarantee it. So they said, we're missing the bowl of the king. And whoever will bring the bowl, that person will be deserving of reward. And the reward is they will get a camel load of grains. That's a lot of reward, and the reward was something that was needed at that time. This kind of reward. Instead of offering cash, or instead of offering visa, or instead of offering something else, what was needed the most at that time, and what was the most appealing thing at that time was food. So depending on what people are most in need of, if you offer that in reward, then people will be more attracted to earning that reward. So at that time, the most in-demand thing was food or was grain. So this person, he said, whoever will bring that bowl will receive the reward of 1 camel load of grains, and I will guarantee it. Either the announcer is saying that I will guarantee it, or perhaps Yusuf is saying that I will guarantee it, that he will get that reward. So there was a solid guarantee behind that promise of reward. قالوا تالله لقد علمتم ما جئنا لنفسد في الأرض وما كنا سارقين. So the brothers, they knew themselves that they had not done it. They were confident that they did not steal anything from the palace. And the reason why they were the ones who were being accused of stealing this bowl, because they were the ones who were closest to Yusuf alayhi salam during that meeting. No one, since the bowl went missing, no one had gone close to Yusuf alayhi salam, and no one was in reach of that bowl. Therefore, the first suspicion was on these brothers. So the brothers, they said, قالوا نفقد صواع قالوا تالله لقد علمتم ما جئنا لنفسد في الأرض وما كنا سارقين. They said, we swear by Allah, you know very well that we did not come here to cause trouble in the land. We had no intention to do anything bad in this land. We simply came with one purpose, and that was to buy grain from you. That's it. وَمَا كُنَّا سَارِقِينَ. And we are not thieves. قَالُوا فَمَا جَزَاؤُهُ إِن كُنتُمْ كَاذِبِينَ. So the servants of Yusuf alayhi salam, they asked the brothers, they said, okay, what is the punishment of that person who turns out to be a liar, meaning who ends up being found guilty of stealing? What should be the punishment of that person? In your religion or in your culture, what should be the punishment of that person according to your laws? قالوا جزاؤه من وجد في رحله فهو جزاؤه. The brothers of Yusuf responded that the punishment will be the enslavement of the one in whose bag the cup or the bowl is found. So they themselves said that the punishment should be enslavement of that person. He should be kept in captivity for as long as the king decides, for as long as the king wishes, if the person is found guilty of stealing. And this was according to the laws of Yaqub alayhi salam, or according to the laws of the religion of Yaqub alayhi salam. Egyptian laws were different. According to the Egyptian law, if someone was found guilty of stealing, there was some fine, and maybe there was some temporary imprisonment, and then the person had to be released and let go. So Yusuf alayhi salam told his servants to ask them, what is the punishment of a thief in your own laws and in your own religion? قالوا فما جزاؤه إن كنتم كاذبين قالوا جزاؤه من وجد في رحله فهو جزاؤه كذلك نجزي الظالمين. So now they determined the punishment of a thief. They agreed on how it's going to play out. So now they started searching. فَبَدَأَ بِأَوْعِيَتِهِمْ قَبْلَ وِعَاءِ أَخِيهِ. They said, we have to search your luggage. We have to search everything because we're missing the bowl, and we're not going to let you go until we complete our investigation. So part of the investigation was to search the luggage of each and every single person in the caravan. So Yusuf alayhi salam began searching their bags. And he searched the bags of other brothers before searching the bag of Binyamin. Why? ثم استخرجها من وعاء أخيه. He the bags of other brothers before checking the bag of Binyamin. So they don't have a suspicion. They don't even think about that this was planted. This was planted by Yusuf alayhi salam. And finally, when he got to the luggage of Binyamin, ثُمَّ اسْتَخْرَجَهَا مِنْ وِعَاءِ أَخِيهِ. Then he recovered the bowl from the luggage of his brother Binyamin. Do you think Binyamin was sad that he was found guilty and the bowl was recovered from his luggage? No. He was happy that now I have a reason to stay. Now I don't have to go back with my brothers. He was already sick of them. كَذَلِكَ كِدْنَا لِيُوسُف. This is how we inspired Yusuf to plan. مَا كَانَ لِيَأْخُذَ أَخَاهُ فِي دِينِ الْمَلِكِ إِلَّا أَنْ يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ نَرْفَعُ دَرَجَاتٍ مَنْ نَشَاءُ وَفَوْقَ كُلِّ ذِي عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٍ. Yusuf could not have taken his brother under the king's law, but Allah had so willed. We elevate in rank whoever we will, but above those ranking in knowledge is the one who is all-knowing. Above every person of knowledge, there is one who has more knowledge. And above all is Allah, who is all-knowing, who is all-encompassing. So Yusuf a.s. could not have kept his brother according to the laws of his own country, and he could not get a consent from his brothers to leave Binyamin behind. So he finally made this plan. And this plan was according to the instructions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah taught Yusuf alayhi salam to make the plan in this manner. So now they had no way to take Binyamin with them. They had to leave him behind. So one may ask this question. So now look at the bigger story. Look at the bigger picture. Yaqub alayhi salam had already lost Yusuf and he was still grieving. He lost Yusuf decades ago and he's still in pain. He's still crying. Every day Yaqub alayhi salam would cry. Not a single day would go by that Yaqub alayhi salam would not miss Yusuf and would not cry about it. And then in some ways Binyamin was the substitute of Yusuf alayhi salam. In some ways, he was making up for the loss that Yaqub alayhi salam had suffered with the missing of Yusuf. And now, Yusuf alayhi salam himself was in on it to take the other son away from Yaqub as well. The question that some people ask is, who in their right mind would do that to their old father? Yaqub alayhi salam was very old at that time, easily past 100. And he had been suffering for a long time, had been in pain for a long time. Now, instead of giving him relief from his pain and giving him some good news, you give him more pain. So, a common person asks, why would someone do that? Let alone someone like Yusuf alayhi salam, a great prophet of Allah, someone who knows what it is like to be in pain. How does it feel to be in pain? Why would he, instead of relieving his father from his pain and giving him some good news, he puts more pain on his old father? So, this is a very strong question and a very reasonable question when you look at this side of the picture. No one in their right mind would do that. No child, even a disobedient child wouldn't do that, let alone a child, an obedient child, an obedient servant of Allah, a prophet of Allah would do that to his own father. And who's also prophet of Allah. So, the answer is This was done by the command of Allah. Allah told Yusuf alayhi salam to do this. Then you ask this question, why was Allah doing this to Yaqub? What did he do to deserve this? First he lost his most beloved son Yusuf. Now he's going to lose his second most beloved son Binyamin in his old age. Why was Allah doing that to Yaqub alayhi salam? So Yusuf alayhi salam had no choice. Yes, it was his desire and it was his wish to keep his brother, but it was also the command of Allah. So even if Yusuf alayhi salam did not want to do that, he had to do it, because when it is the command of Allah, you must do it. So the scholars say that this was part of the test that Allah was putting Yaqub through, and it was yet to be completed. Parts of the test remained. Parts of the test were still outstanding. And therefore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was putting Yaqub alayhi salam through more pain. So, the reward that Allah promised to Yaqub alayhi salam was going to be worthy of his effort and worthy of his sacrifice. Now, you should try to understand, when beloved servants of Allah are going through pain, you should not start questioning that maybe Allah is punishing them. Allah was never punishing Yaqub alayhi salam. Na'udhu billah. And Allah never punished Yusuf alayhi salam. Allah never punished Ismail alayhi salam, or Ishaq alayhi salam, or Ibrahim alayhi salam, or na'udhu billah, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Our beloved Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam suffered so much. In the battle of Uhud, he suffered with wounds. He sustained injuries. He lost his teeth. He bled. Why was Allah doing that to our Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? It was part of his test that Allah was going to put him through. So sometimes we will fail to understand the wisdom of some action or some hardship that a servant of Allah is going through. Our brothers and sisters in Palestine have been going through the hardships for a long time. But in the last 9 months, their hardships have intensified, have reached a level, a scale that you and I cannot imagine. But they have been enduring it. Allah is putting them through this test because Allah is elevating them. They are definitely better than us. You and I are not even worthy of being compared to these people, the amount of sacrifices that they have made. Some have lost all family members. Some have lost 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%, 60% of their family members. Almost all of them have lost their homes. Almost all of them are starving. Almost all of them are thirsty. And the summer is very intense over there. The heat is very intense. They've been suffering. They went through the cold of the winter. Now they're going through the heat of the summer, and they have no home. They have no place to go to. 2 million of them are homeless in Gaza. Their homes have been permanently destroyed. So why is Allah putting them through this test? And when will their test end? Inshallah, their test will end. We have no doubt that Allah has the good end for them. Allah has written good end for them. The best end. وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Aqibah is for those who have taqwa and who have righteousness. So there's certainly good that is waiting for them. But now think about the pain and agony of Yaqub alayhi salam. He suffered for a long time. All this while he was thinking that Yusuf, maybe he's dead, maybe he's gone. Sometimes Yaqub alayhi salam would ask Jibreel alayhi salam, "Oh Jibreel, just tell me, is my son alive?" And Jibreel alayhi salam was not allowed to even answer that. So he wouldn't answer. Jibreel alayhi salam knew everything. Above all, Allah knew everything. Allah did not tell Yaqub alayhi salam all those years that your son is alive, he's well, and he has ascended to the throne. And now Yusuf alayhi salam himself was in on it. And he decided to make this scheme, and he decided to keep Binyamin in this way with him. So the brothers of Yusuf, when they found out after the search that Binyamin really was the one in whose luggage the bowl was found, so basically he was found guilty. Basically, in their mind, now Binyamin is a thief. So look what they say. They said, "يَسْرِقْ فَقَدْ سَرَقَ أَخٌ لَهُ مِنْ قَبْلِ." If he stole, then indeed his brother was also a thief. And they were referring to Yusuf because there were only two full brothers. They separated themselves. No, we don't have anything to do with him. If he's found stealing, his brother was found stealing too. فَأَسَرَّهَا يُوسُفُ فِي نَفْسِهِ وَلَمْ يُبْدِهَا لَهُمْ قَالَ أَنْتُمْ شَرٌّ مَكَانًا. Yusuf alayhi salam suppressed his outrage, revealing nothing to them. And he said to himself, "You are in such an evil position. You're in such a bad position, all of you brothers." So what is this story? That the brothers of Yusuf are saying that if he's found stealing, then his brother was found guilty of stealing too before him. So basically they said, it's this family. These two brothers, they're both thieves. Na'udhu billah. So Yusuf alayhi salam really hated when they said and when they accused. They didn't know that they were accusing their brother in absence, but the brother that they were accusing was right in front of them. فَأَصَرَّهَا يُوسُفُ فِي نَفْسِهِ وَلَمْ يُبْدِهَا لَهُمْ. He still held his outrage. He held it back and he did not reveal it to them. قَالَ أَنْتُمْ شَرٌّ مَكَانًا. And then he said to himself, turning towards them, that you are in a really bad place, in a really bad position. So what is the story? The scholars have said that the accusation that the brothers are referring to in this ayah is actually something that happened in the early years of the childhood of Yusuf alayhi salam. So what happened when Yusuf alayhi salam's brother Binyamin was born, and Binyamin was 2 years younger than Yusuf alayhi salam. When Binyamin was born, his mother, or the mother of Yusuf and Binyamin, she passed away. Soon after giving birth to Binyamin, she passed away. So now they were both left without a mother. So one of the sisters of Yaqub alayhi salam, the paternal aunt of Yusuf and Binyamin, she stepped in and she said, "I will take care of him. I will look after both of them," because still Yusuf was only 2 years old or 2.5 years old, and Binyamin was a little baby. So she said, "I will take both of them and I will take care of them. I will raise them. And then later on, when you want them back, I will bring them back to you." She was saying to her brother, Yaqub alayhi salam. So even though Yaqub alayhi salam did not want to let go of Yusuf alayhi salam, even at that age he was in love with Yusuf, so he had no choice but to let both of them live with his sister, with the paternal aunt of Yusuf and Binyamin. So they started living with her. She started raising both of them, and she loved Yusuf alayhi salam so much as well. Just like father Yaqub loved Yusuf so much, she loved Yusuf so much as well. Allah would put love of Yusuf in everyone's heart. And everyone who had love for Yusuf alayhi salam, Yusuf alayhi salam had to suffer for them. This is something that I mentioned a few weeks ago, that Yusuf alayhi salam told someone, please don't love me, because if someone loves me, I have to suffer for them. When my father loved me, I had to go through this pain of being abandoned and being sold as a slave and all of that. When the wife of Aziz fell in love with Yusuf alayhi salam, he had to go to the prison. Then something else happened. So in the childhood, when the aunt of Yusuf alayhi salam, she loved him so much that she did not want to let go of him. But a time came when Yaqub alayhi salam said, I want my children back. I want my sons back. She said, please let them stay with me. I love Yusuf and I love Binyamin so much. You can take Binyamin, but leave Yusuf with me. And Yaqub alayhi salam said, no, I want both of them. I want Yusuf, and I want Binyamin. So she thought of a strategy. She said, okay, I have no choice. You can take them. But when she was letting go of Yusuf, she did his packing. She packed his clothes, whatever she had to give away. She did all of that. And when she was giving clothes to Yusuf alayhi salam, she put some special belt on his body, under his clothes. So when he left, she started screaming that my belt is missing. My belt is stolen. So Yaqub alayhi salam, he said, okay, if your belt is stolen, then look in your house. She said, I looked in my house. It's not in my house. And then she said, I think it's Yusuf who stole my belt. So Yaqub alayhi salam, he said, okay, you can search him. So she started searching him. She searched the bag that she packed for him. She did not find it there. Then she said, okay, let me check his waist. Maybe it is on him. So she put his hand on his waist, and the belt was right there. So she lifted the shirt of Yusuf alayhi salam, and the belt was right there under that shirt. She said, look, he has my belt. He stole my belt. And this was all part of her strategy. Remember, in the law of Yaqub alayhi salam, if someone was found guilty of stealing, they had to be imprisoned by the one in whose stuff they stole. So Yusuf alayhi salam was found guilty of stealing the belt that belonged to his aunt, so he had to go live with his aunt. So for a few more years, Yaqub alayhi salam had to let go of Yusuf, and he stayed with his aunt. So that was a time when brothers said, look, Yusuf was found guilty of stealing. And this is what they were referring to at this point, years later. And later on, everyone realized that the aunt plotted that, the aunt planted that, and Yusuf alayhi salam had done nothing wrong. Yusuf alayhi salam did not steal anything. It was the aunt who had done it to him, because she wanted to keep him. But the brothers, they used that as a reason to accuse Yusuf alayhi salam. So now, this time, when it was done to Binyamin, they said, if he did it, then his brother Yusuf did it as well before. Wallahu a'lamu bima tasifun. Yusuf alayhi salam said, Allah knows best the truth of what you claim. قالوا يا أيها العزيز إن له أبا شيخا كبيرا فخذ أحدنا مكانه. Now all the brothers, they said to Yusuf, not knowing that he is Yusuf, they were still required to refer to him and address him as Al-Aziz. They said, oh Aziz, إن له أبا شيخا كبيرا. This boy Binyamin, our brother that you are wanting to keep behind and keep in enslavement, he has a father who's very old. So instead of taking him, why don't you take one of us?
فَخُذْ أَحَدَنَا مَكَانَهُ. Instead of taking him in his place, we're willing to let you keep one of us. But let him go, because we gave promise to our father that we will bring him back. فَخُذْ أَحَدَنَا مَكَانَهُ إِنَّا نَرَاكَ مِنَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. We surely see that you are a very good person. You are someone who does good to others. So do good to us. And instead of keeping him, we know he stole or he did something wrong. But instead of keeping him, why don't you keep one of us and let him go? قَالَ مَعَاذَ اللَّهِ. Yusuf alayhi salam, he said, I seek refuge in Allah. أَن نَأْخُذَ إِلَّا مَنْ وَجَدْنَا مَتَاعَنَا عِنْدَهُ إِنَّا إِذًا لَظَالِمُونَ. We seek Allah's refuge from keeping anyone other than him with whom we have found our thing. Otherwise, we shall be unjust. So Yusuf alayhi salam, he told his brothers, I cannot. If I keep someone else for someone else's crime, then I will become the wrongdoer. We have to keep the one who has done something wrong, who's found guilty. And it is Binyamin who's found guilty, so we have to keep him. We cannot substitute him with someone else. فَلَمَّا اسْتَيْأَسُوا مِنْهُ خَلَصُوا نَجِيًّا. When they lost all hope in him, they spoke privately. So when all the brothers realized that Yusuf is not going to let go of Binyamin, he is now in his captivity, he's not going to be released, and they were not strong enough to take him by force because the whole army was there. The army of Egypt was there. They could not have fought with an army. So when they lost all hope in getting Binyamin back, they spoke privately. خَلَصُوا نَجِيًّا. They had a private conversation on the side. قَالَ كَبِيرُهُمْ. So the eldest of them, he said, أَلَمْ تَعْلَمُوا أَنَّ أَبَاكُمْ قَدْ أَخَذَ عَلَيْكُمْ مَوْثِقًا مِنَ اللَّهِ. Do you not know that your father had taken a solemn oath by Allah from you? وَمِنْ قَبْلُ مَا فَرَّطْتُمْ فِي يُوسُفَ. And before that, you also failed your father regarding Yusuf. First, you disappointed your father in case of Yusuf and you lost him, and now you are going to disappoint your father in regard to Binyamin, and you are going to make him lose his son Binyamin as well. فَلَنْ أَبْرَحَ الْأَرْضِ حَتَّى يَأْذَنَ لِي أَبِي أَوْ يَحْكُمَ اللَّهُ لِي. So the eldest brother, he said, I am not leaving this land until my father allows me to, or Allah decides for me. وَهُوَ خَيْرُ الْحَاكِمِينَ. And Allah is the best of judges. This brother that Allah is referring to as the eldest, Kabir. Kabir means the elder or the eldest. And the scholars have given three possibilities as to in what sense he was the eldest. Some say he was the eldest in age, so that's why he's Kabir. Some say he was the wisest of all of them, that's why he's the Kabir. And some said that he was the most sensible one of all of them, that's why he was Kabir. Either way, this was the eldest brother of all the brothers. Some have called him Yehuda, his name was Yehuda. Another name that is mentioned is Shamun or Simon. And another name that is mentioned is Ruwaybin or Rubel. So one of these three brothers was the one who said to his brothers that, don't you know that you gave a strong promise to your father in the name of Allah that you will bring Binyamin back, and before that you have done wrong with regard to Yusuf as well. You've taken Yusuf away from him as well. So he said, you guys can go back. I don't have the courage to face my father anymore. I do not have answers. I cannot face him, and I cannot go from here. He said, I'm not leaving this land until my father specifically allows me to return home, or Allah decides in my case, and Allah is the best of those who make decision, who make judgment. ارجعوا إلى أبيكم فقولوا يا أبانا إن ابنك سرق. So go back to your father and say to him, O our father, your son has committed theft. وَمَا شَهِدْنَا إِلَّا بِمَا عَلِمْنَا. And we testify only to what we know. وَمَا كُنَّا لِلْغَيْبِ حَافِظِينَ. We could not guard against the unforeseen. So, he's told his brothers, now 2 of them are going to be left behind. One by choice, who's not going to leave, and one was going to be kept behind by force by Yusuf alayhi salam. So he said to other brothers, you guys go back to your father and tell him your son has committed theft. This is the way they chose to speak to Yaqub alayhi salam. Instead of saying our brother has committed theft, they said your son did it. Because they did not want to associate themselves with Binyamin. And Binyamin was half brother to them, was not full brother. So they said, your son did it. Inna ibnaka saraq. Your son committed a theft. When usually husband and wife, when they have an argument, and if the son does something wrong, or the daughter does something wrong, the husband says to the wife, your daughter did it. When they do something wrong. When they do something right, they say, my daughter did it, or my son did it. So when they do something right, they say, yeah, my son did it, or my daughter did it. And when they do something wrong, then your son did it, your daughter did it. Even though it's both of them who are the parents. But this is how they chose to speak to Yaqub alayhi salam. They said, your son committed the theft. وَمَا شَهِدْنَا إِلَّا بِمَا عَلِمْنَا. And we testify only to what we know. We cannot have the knowledge of unseen. وَمَا كُنَّا لِلْغَيْبِ حَافِظِينَ. And we could not guard against the unforeseen. وَاسْأَلِ الْقَرْيَةَ الَّتِي كُنَّا فِيهَا وَالْعِيرَ الَّتِي أَقْبَلْنَا فِيهَا وَإِنَّا لَصَادِقُونَ. And ask the people of the land where we were and the caravan we traveled with, we are certainly telling the truth. So when they spoke to Yaqub alayhi salam, they said, if you want to find out whether we really did something wrong, ask the people of the town and ask the caravan. We didn't do anything wrong, and we are telling you the truth. When someone is telling you the truth, they don't have to say, you're not going to believe me. When they say you're not going to believe me, then they are telling you something false. When they were speaking lies to Yaqub alayhi salam in the case of Yusuf alayhi salam, and they came back with the story of wolf eating Yusuf, they said, وَمَا أَنْتَ بِمُؤْمِنٍ لَنَا وَلَوْ كُنَّا صَادِقِينَ. You're not going to believe us even though we're telling the truth. And they were telling the lie. Yusuf alayhi salam was not eaten by a wolf. Here they were telling the truth, so they did not have to say, you're not going to believe us, because they were telling the truth. قال بل سولت لكم أنفسكم أمرا فصبر جميل عسى الله أن يأتيني بهم جميعا إنه هو العليم الحكيم. Yaqub alayhi salam, he said, no, your souls must have tempted you to do something evil. So I am left with nothing but beautiful patience. I trust Allah that He will return them all to me. Surely Allah alone is the all-knowing and all-wise. So Yaqub alayhi salam did not want to go in further confrontation with his sons. So he closed the argument, he closed the discussion by saying that I know something has gone wrong, and therefore I will just be patient. I will resort to beautiful patience, and Allah is the one in whom I place my trust. عَسَى اللَّهُ أَن يَأْتِيَنِي بِهِمْ جَمِيعًا, and hopefully Allah will bring all of them back to me. Allah will bring back Yusuf to me, Allah will bring back Binyamin to me, and Allah will bring back the eldest brother as well who was left behind. Allah will bring all of them back to me. إِنَّهُ هُوَ الْعَلِيمُ الْحَكِيمُ. Surely Allah is all-knowing and all-wise. وَتَوَلَّى عَنْهُمْ وَقَالَ يَا أَسَفَ عَلَى يُوسُفَ وَابْيَضَّتْ عَيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْحُزْنِ فَهُوَ كَظِيمٌ. Then Yusuf turned away from them, lamenting, alas, poor Yusuf, and his eyes turned white out of the grief he suppressed. Yusuf a.s. used to cry so much that he lost his eyesight. He became blind, literally for crying excessively. That can happen. If you cry too much, you can become blind. You can lose your eyesight. And that's what happened with Yaqub a.s. He was not born blind. He was not blind when Yusuf when Yusuf was there. But when he lost Yusuf, he used to cry so much. Eventually, he lost his eyesight, so he became blind. So he used to say, Ya asafa ala Yusuf, how sad I am about Yusuf. وَابْيَضَّتْ عَيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْحُزْنِ فَهُوَ كَظِيمٌ. And his eyes turned white with sorrow, and he was suppressing his anger and grief. وَآخِرُ دَعْوَانَا أَنِ الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Any questions?
سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد ان لا اله الا انت نستغفرك ونتوب اليك. اللهم صل وسلم على عبدك ورسولك. اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد افضل صلواتك. اللهم انا نسالك الهدى والتقى والعفاف والغنى. اللهم انا نسالك العفو والعافيه والمعافاه الدائمه في الدين والدنيا والاخره. اللهم حبب الينا الايمان وزينه في قلوبنا وكره الينا الكفر والفسوق والعصيان واجعلنا من الراشدين. اللهم استر عوراتنا وامن روعاتنا. اللهم احفظنا من بين ايدينا ومن خلفنا وعن يميننا وعن شمالنا ومن فوقنا وان نغتال من تحتنا. رضينا بالله ربا وبالاسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم رسولا ونبيا. اللهم انصر اخواننا في فلسطين. اللهم انصر اخواننا في غزه. اللهم انصرهم نصرا مؤزرا. اللهم كن لهم عونا ونصيرا. اللهم حرر المسجد الاقصى. اللهم اغفر لشهداء فلسطين. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنه وفي الاخره حسنه وقنا